Final Fantasy XVI has been a long time coming from Square Enix, recruiting Naoki Yoshida of the Final Fantasy XIV fame as a producer. Two brothers born from the same family, but eventually become the Phoenix and Ifrit of a war-torn world. When it is not possible to have two icons of the same element coexisting, what fate awaits these two brothers? That's the story Final Fantasy XVI is trying to tell you. And this is my review of Final Fantasy XVI. Without a doubt, Final Fantasy XVI is a very beautiful game. From the world building to character art and skill visuals, you can see every single bit of detail on the screen. Environmental changes are more than lip services, from lush vegetation to the desert or a land ravaged by a blight. You can see and feel the change in climate and flora. Detailed clothing and even skin tone texture of each character demonstrated how meticulous Yoshi P and his team have crafted the game. When it came to the visual spectacles of all the abilities and skills, apart from the grandeur of those skills, you can actually identify who's in the skill. During the whole playthrough, I never had a moment of thinking, did I use the wrong skill? Despite having all the flashy graphics dashing across the screen. With his longtime collaborator, Masayashi Soken, at the helm of the soundtrack, you can expect musical candy to your ears. This will be particularly true for players who have not played FF14. For them, this will be considered as one of the best Final Fantasy soundtracks. However, for me, as a 14 veteran, while the tunes are nice, they all felt familiar to me. Don't get me wrong, it is familiar in a good way, just that they are too familiar for me to feel surprised. For me, the battle and the character development systems are where Final Fantasy XVI shines. At this point, anyone who thought Final Fantasy would stay on its turn-based roots is wishful thinking. Nevertheless, the battle system in 16 offers a huge degree of customization and flexibility that you rarely see in most recent games. From an easier story-focused mode to noble game mode and accessories that took the heavy lifting of strategy out of the equation, Yoshi P basically said you can play the game in any way and any manner you want. The most important point is, enjoy the game. And I think that's what I appreciate about 16. The high degree of customization allows you to try out different skills and different accessories in any combinations you want. Plus, you were encouraged to experiment without being penalized. If something sounded good on paper but did not work for you, well, take them out, reset the skills, and use the points for other things. Also, with the experience Yoshi P gained from FF14, the button mapping for different skills just flows naturally. You don't need to worry about their positioning too much, as they will become second nature for you after several battles, even if you have recently changed or swapped them around. The NPCs in the party are a lot smarter, and they tend to do the right thing even when the battles were spread out. In all, I haven't had so much fun with a battle and character development system for quite some time. The only thing I wish they could have implemented was allowing to switch full sets on the fly, as I prefer to use different skill sets for mobs as compared to bosses. Needing to redo my sets every time dealing with a boss fight was inconvenient at times. Unfortunately, this is where 16 let me down. The following discussion will have potential spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, stop watching now. The intention was a grand Final Fantasy story, taking inspirations from the likes of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, while decorating it with lots of Final Fantasy lore. However, for me, the end product was a story that felt like half-baked with more soap opera than Final Fantasy. First of all, the story experienced two significant time jumps. However, the jumps seemed to be inconsequential to character development. The first jump was still reasonable. It showed the difference between childhood and adulthood. That's fine, I can accept that, despite the characters didn't really show much growth except for their appearances. However, in the second jump, I started to feel that the story didn't make sense anymore. For example, they did certain things in an attempt to stop the rotting of the world. They did it, made the sacrifice, and the rotting accelerated instead. So, why did they still hell-bent on doing the same thing again and again? I mean, they have a lot more brain power now. Did they not stop and think about what went wrong and why did it make things worse? They were even told by the NPC that every time they repeated the action, things got worse. So why did they continue? Also, the bond between the brothers. A lot of time I felt like it's so one-sided. They both share the bond of a phoenix feather, but most of the time, before they finally met, it was Joshua who felt the movement and presence of Clive. Clive was just like, "Oh, where is Joshua? I need to find him!" If their bond is so really deep, why couldn't Clive seek Joshua out earlier? And if Joshua really wanted to help Clive, why didn't he not show up earlier? And why did he have to wait till another climatic convenience to meet again? Oh, and don't get me started with that ridiculous mother plot. Yeah, this phase. Even Jill and Clive's relationship felt so out of convenience. Yeah, Jill always has hots for Clive, we all saw that. But Clive, oh Clive, it seems that it's just because he was horny at that time, so he got together with Jill. For me, the scenes were just one cringe after another. There were a lot of other plot holes that I don't want to mention here, or it will really spoil the whole thing. But you got the gist of it. Apart from the main story, there are a lot of side quests for you to indulge in. However, for some of the side quests, the talking was so long that I could go and boil the water, make a cup of tea, and the NPC would still be talking. There were even occasions that it took so long that my PS5 said it would shut down due to the long period of inaction. You can also practice and hone your skills, and also relive certain dungeons using the monoliths around the world. For some, this is a way to show off your skills on YouTube, but for me, it was a bit too repetitive. Notorious marks are back, and this is a piece of side content that I like most, as each enemy is different, and they are more interesting than your common mobs and bosses. Also, battle experience you learn from lower rank marks will help you consolidate your knowledge when fighting the higher rank ones. For me, that made you feel like you have grown as a hunter yourself. All in all, Final Fantasy XVI is still an enjoyable game. It is not without flaws, and for me it is far from perfect. But it still did not disqualify it as a game that you can enjoy. I know some people were calling for DLCs. For me, if they want to release DLCs, I want a toggle mode. So I can go through the story from the toggle's perspective and make parallel comments about how stupid some of the human characters are. And this is my review for Final Fantasy XVI. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe. I will see you next time.